Colorblindness, its history and discovery. For my final project, I started with an article titled Can Women Be Colorblind?, written by Alicia Lockett. While this article does not discuss much of the history of colorblindness, it does mention the different types of colorblindness and what causes it. In the next few minutes, I will be going over the history of the disorder and how it was discovered, and the social implications that exist currently for those who are colorblind. You will also learn about the tests conducted not only in the past, but the ones still used today, and what can be done to supplement the loss of color vision. Colorblindness is not the inability to see any colors at all, at least in most cases. However, it is a disorder that causes the inability to distinguish between certain colors. There are 3 different kinds of colorblindness: red-green, which results in protoanomaly or deuteranomaly, respectively when red looks more like green and when green looks more like red. Blue-yellow, which results in the confusion of several colors. Tritonomaly is confusion between blue and green and yellow and red. In both of these 2 variations, all of the associated colors can seem to blend. The third case, and the most rare, is complete colorblindness, also called achromatopsia, which results in monochromatic vision. Guessed it, no colors at all can be seen. Imagine your entire life as a Charlie Chaplin movie. But how is colorblindness discovered? Well, if you're a chemistry student, the name John Dalton might and probably should be very familiar to you. In the early 19th century, Dalton was a well-known chemist, known for establishing Dalton's law, and he later formulated part of the atomic theory. In the late 18th century, however, Dalton was elected a member of the Manchester Literary and Philosophical Society. It was there that he became the first person to document not just his defect, but his brother's as well. Both of them were colorblind. In fact, in 1798, he said of his own colorblindness, "That part of the image which others call red appears to me little more than a shade or defect of light. The orange, yellow, and green seem one color, which descends pretty uniformly from an intense to a rare yellow, making what I should call different shades of yellow." While much of his scientific contributions were in the chemic field, he did conduct small studies regarding colorblindness. Dalton's hypothesis was that his colorblindness was caused by his vitreous humor being tinted a blue color. The vitreous humor is a fluid that keeps the shape of the eye and allows light to pass through to the retina. At the time of his death, he wanted his eyes to be studied. After an autopsy of his eyes, it was discovered that his fluid was in fact clear. On June 6, 1865, famous author Charles Dickens was a passenger in a fatal railway accident. It is implied that the cause, or at least a contributing factor, was that the driver was colorblind and therefore unable to distinguish between the railway signals. He later wrote the short story, The Signalman. Nearing the mid to late 19th century, more and more train accidents were being linked to colorblindness. A specific accident in Langerlanda, Sweden, lunged physiologist Fridtjof Holmgren to study and research colorblindness. He used different colored pieces of yarn to test his subject's ability to differentiate between colors. These tests were conducted on railway staff in Sweden, and about 5% were actually found to be colorblind. The rising number of crashes supposedly due to colorblindness incited fear in the communities and resulted in the ban of colorblind people to work in certain railway positions. The first official tests for colorblindness as we know them today were created by Professor J. Stilling in 1883 in Germany. This test consisted of plates with numbers on top of a similarly colored background. The limitation of this test, however, was that it was really only helpful in diagnosing the more common kind of colorblindness, red-green. Later in the 19th century, Japanese ophthalmologist Ishihara Shinobu designed his own test, which was very similar to Stilling's. However, this one was able to distinguish colorblind test takers as either red-green, or blue-yellow. Ishihara tests are what is most commonly used today, even after several editions and over 100 years of use. This test most often uses numbers painted against a background of dots of varying size and color. An addition was made to the Ishihara test by American scientists Dr. LeGrand H. Hardy, Dr. Gertrude Rand, and M. Catherine Riddler. This new test, called the HRR test, was created in 1955 and included symbols and shapes, in addition to the original numbers and symbols from Ishihara and Stilling. The photos that you see are courtesy of the Enchroma website, where you're able to take a quick test. If you have trouble identifying any of the numbers within these 4 circles, it's possible you have a formless. There are some careers that are restricted or even banned for colorblind persons. These can include piloting, engineering, some medical fields, certain military branches or positions, or law enforcement. Think about everything you do in life in one single day that requires you to know which colors are which. Interesting enough, people who are affected by color vision deficiency don't actually know it until they apply for a certain job and are required to take a color vision test. One such example of this is a career as an electrical engineer. One huge part of that job is knowing what colors different wires are: red, green, blue, yellow. With a person colorblind, they might mistake a red wire for a green one by accident. This can create a safety risk. But that isn't the end for people who suffer from colorblindness. Some companies, such as Enchroma, have designed glasses and/or contacts to enhance the vision of color for those affected. This is done by lenses that, as according to the Enchroma website, filter out wavelengths of light at the precise point where the confusion or excessive overlap of color sensitivity occurs. Normal color vision is due to cones, which, when functioned properly, allow us to see color. There are 3 different cones, and each of them detect certain wavelengths, therefore giving us the ability to see and distinguish color. 1 in 12 biologically born men will be colorblind, but only 1 in 200 biologically born women. Why is this? In 1876, Swiss ophthalmologist Johann Friedrich Horner established Horner's Law. This law states that colorblind fathers will have normal color vision daughters, and colorblind mothers will or can have colorblind sons. In summation, Horner was stating that not only is colorblindness genetic, but it is a sex-linked disorder on the X chromosome. This would be the answer to why biologically born men are much more likely to be color vision deficient, because males only have one X chromosome, therefore much more likely to inherit the defect from their mother's DNA.